Commander Alara Vex stared at the blue-green planet through her view screen. Earth, home to humans, a world that the rest of the galaxy saw as nothing special. For 300 years, the Galactic Confederacy had been fighting the Vraxian Empire across thousands of star systems, and all that time, Earth sat alone, protected by old laws that said no one could bother it. Alara had spent 20 years watching Earth from her hidden ship. Her people, the Centaurians, thought humans were interesting but primitive, dangerous on their own world, perhaps but not important to the great powers of space. Commander, urgent message from Central Command, her second officer said, interrupting her thoughts. The message was clear and frightening. A Vraxian scout fleet had broken through Confederate defenses and entered the Sol system. Alara's orders were simple: tell Earth's leaders what was happening, as a courtesy, then leave her post. After all, what could primitive humans do against Vraxian warships? The Vraxians would surely destroy Earth without much trouble. Prepare a message to Earth's leaders, Alara said with a sigh. She felt bad for the humans. They had no idea what was coming. But as she worked on the message, her ship's sensors began reporting strange activity. Earth's orbital defenses, which had appeared to be simple satellites, were changing. Hidden parts were unfolding. Weapons were powering up. That's impossible, Alara whispered. They shouldn't have that technology. The Vraxian scouts arrived, 5 warships moving fast toward Earth. Alara expected to see panic, perhaps some weak attempts at defense. Instead, she watched in shock as Earth's orbital platforms fired weapons far beyond what humans should possess. The first Vraxian ship exploded in seconds. The second tried to turn away but was cut in half by some kind of energy beam. From Earth's surface, missiles launched upward, tracking the remaining Vraxian ships with perfect accuracy. These weren't simple rockets. They moved like Confederate hunter-seekers, technology Earth shouldn't know about. They're using Confederate weapon designs, her tactical officer said, voice shaking. But some of these are even more advanced than ours. In less than 5 minutes, all 5 Vraxian warships were destroyed. Not damaged, completely destroyed. No survivors. No distress calls. Alara's hands trembled as she canceled her warning message. Humans didn't need her warning. They had been ready all along. How is this possible? Her second officer asked. A cold realization washed over Alara. They'd been watching us, she said quietly. All these years we thought we were studying them. They were studying us. She turned to her communications officer. Send an urgent message to Confederate High Command. Priority Alpha. What should I say, Commander? Alara looked once more at the seemingly peaceful blue planet, now surrounded by the debris of Vraxian warships. Tell them, Earth is not what we thought. Humans are not primitives. They've been watching us, learning from us, and now they're coming. As she sent the message, Alara couldn't help but wonder. If humans could hide such advanced technology for so long, what else were they hiding? And now that they had been pulled into the galactic war, what would they do next? The galaxy was about to find out. The great meeting hall of the Confederate Council fell silent as Admiral Helena Chen walked in. She wore a simple dark blue uniform with Earth's new symbol, a globe surrounded by stars. On her shoulder, the council members, aliens from 100 different worlds, stared at her. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. You have much to explain, human, said the council leader, a tall being with gray skin. For centuries, we thought your people knew nothing of the galaxy. Now we find you have advanced weapons and ships. You have deceived us all. Admiral Chen stood straight, her face calm. Yes, we did. Whispers filled the room. Nobody expected such a direct answer. 70 years ago, Chen continued, one of your ships crashed in our ocean. We called it the Pacific event. Your Confederate crew died before we could help them, but their ship remained. Images appeared on the large screen behind her, a damaged spacecraft being pulled from Earth's waters. Instead of announcing this to the galaxy, Earth's nations made a choice. We would learn. We would prepare. We took the ship apart, studied its technology, and built our own versions, all while watching your war with the Vraxians unfold. A Centaurian representative stood up. It was Alara Vex, who had first discovered Earth's secret. Why hide for so long? Why maintain the illusion of being primitive? Chen smiled slightly. Because it worked. While your observers reported that humans were busy fighting each other over small pieces of land, we were actually building shipyards inside our moon and on Mars. While you thought we were struggling with basic spaceflight, we were intercepting and decoding your transmissions, learning about both Confederate and Vraxian battle tactics. The council leader's eyes narrowed. This war has nothing to do with Earth. Why enter it now? Chen touched a small device on her wrist. More images appeared on the screen, secret Vraxian messages translated into the common galactic language. These are Vraxian plans to harvest Earth. No matter what your treaties say, they want our water, our minerals, and our DNA. This war was always coming to us. We simply decided to meet it on our terms. A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, the council leader spoke. Very well. Earth may join the Confederacy as a provisional ally. You will be assigned support roles while you learn how we conduct warfare. Chen's face showed no emotion, but her eyes held a dangerous gleam. With respect, we did not come here to seek permission or take orders. Earth is willing to fight alongside the Confederacy, but as equals. She touched her wrist device again. New images showed a massive fleet of Earth ships hidden throughout the solar system. Hundreds of vessels with designs unlike anything the Confederacy had built. The Vraxians will attack again, in greater numbers. When they do, humanity will be ready. The question is, will you fight with us, or will you stand aside? As Admiral Chen turned to leave, Alara Vex watched her closely. The other council members saw a primitive species arrogantly demanding respect. But Alara saw something else, a predator that had been patiently waiting, watching from the shadows, preparing for the perfect moment to strike. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Confederate military officials shifted uncomfortably as their shuttle approached the asteroid. They had come to inspect Earth's contribution to the war effort, expecting to see a small force with basic ships. What they saw instead made their eyes widen. The massive rock had been hollowed out and transformed into a shipyard. Hundreds of warships floated nearby, their designs unlike any Confederate or Vraxian vessel. Workers in spacesuits moved between the ships, making final adjustments before battle. "Welcome to Armstrong Base," said Dr. Marcus Wong as the officials stepped off their shuttle. He was a small man with bright eyes and quick hands. Earth's primary shipyard and weapons development center. "These ships," said General Krill, the head of the Confederate delegation, "they don't look like proper warships." He pointed to a nearby vessel that was long and slim, not round and armored like Confederate ships. Dr. Wong smiled. "That's because we fight differently. Let me show you." He led them through the base to a testing area. On one side sat a chunk of Confederate armor, the kind used on their best warships. On the other side was a piece of dark metal that seemed to shift colors as they watched. "Confederate ships rely on energy shields," Wong explained. "Vraxian ships too. But shields can be overloaded." He pressed a button, and a powerful laser hit the Confederate armor, burning through it slowly. "Now watch this." The same laser hit the human armor. Instead of burning through, the metal seemed to absorb the energy, growing stronger. "Adaptive armor," Wong said. "It becomes stronger when attacked. And that's just the beginning." He showed them more human weapons, railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, stealth systems that made ships almost invisible, and most impressive of all, a communication device that worked instantly across any distance. "Quantum entanglement communication," Wong explained. "Your scientists said it was impossible. Ours made it work." "How?" asked a Confederate scientist. "How did humans develop technology that we couldn't create in centuries?" Wong looked at the alien visitors. "Your people and the Vraxians have been fighting the same war for 300 years. Same tactics, Same weapons, neither side willing to try something truly new because it might fail. He gestured to the shipyard through the viewport. Humans have fought thousands of wars against ourselves. We had to constantly change how we fight or we would lose. We learned to adapt faster than our enemies. Now we bring that thinking to your war. General Krill frowned. These weapons are impressive, but the Vraxians have numbers. Thousands of ships. You cannot match that. We don't need to match them, Wong replied. We just need to change the rules of the game. A loud announcement echoed through the base. The first human battle fleet was preparing to launch. Through the viewport, they watched as hundreds of ships moved into formation around the largest vessel of all. A massive dreadnought with the name SS Thermopylae painted on its side. What does that name mean? Asked General Krill. It's from Earth's history, Wong answered. A place where a small force held off a much larger army through better tactics and terrain. The Vraxians are about to get a history lesson. As the human fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, the Confederate officials realized something that sent a chill through them. Humanity wasn't joining their war as a junior partner. They were bringing a storm that neither the Confederacy nor the Vraxians were prepared for. The skies above New Centauri were filled with fire. The Vraxian 7th Fleet, known as the Planet Breakers, had crushed the Confederate defense lines after weeks of fighting. Their massive ships moved slowly toward the planet, firing at the last orbital defenses. On the planet's surface, thousands of Centaurians rushed to evacuation ships. Many wouldn't make it. The Vraxian commander had already sent the message all planets feared: surrender or burn. We cannot hold them any longer, said the Confederate admiral in charge of the planet's defense. The evacuation needs 3 more hours. We don't have 3 hours. Suddenly, the space at the edge of the system lit up. Ships were arriving, but not where expected. Instead of coming to help the defenders, the new fleet appeared behind the Vraxian lines. Who are they? Asked the admiral. His sensor officer looked up in shock. Human ships, sir. It's the Earth fleet. Captain Samira Basara stood on the bridge of the HSS Shivaji, her dark eyes fixed on the enemy ships. All vessels, execute Battle Plan Trafalgar, she ordered calmly. Wolf Packs 1 through 5, target their command ships. Isolate and eliminate. The human ships moved in ways no Confederate or Vraxian captain had ever seen. Instead of forming a line and exchanging fire as space battles had been fought for centuries, the human vessels divided into small groups. Each group moved quickly, attacking a single Vraxian ship from multiple angles. What are they doing? Asked a Vraxian officer as alarms sounded across their flagship. Their formation makes no sense. The Vraxian commander growled in anger. It doesn't matter. They are too few. Regroup the fleet and crush them. But as the Vraxian ships tried to turn to face the new threat, they faced another problem. The human vessels were communicating instantly, coordinating their attacks perfectly using their quantum technology. By the time a Vraxian ship fired at a human vessel, that vessel had already moved to a new position. Now, said Captain Basara. As the Vraxian fleet began to gather in a defensive formation, she pressed a button on her command chair. Throughout the area, invisible devices suddenly appeared on the Vraxian sensors. Hundreds of stealth nuclear mines had been deployed during the first moments of the battle, dropped by small, fast human ships. The explosions tore through the heart of the Vraxian fleet. Their biggest ships, including the command vessels, were caught in the blasts. With their leaders gone and their formation broken, the remaining Vraxian ships fell quickly to the coordinated human attacks. In less than an hour, the battle was over. The Vraxian 7th Fleet, a force that had never been defeated, was destroyed. The human ships had suffered only minor damage. As Confederate officials arrived on the HSS Shivaji to thank Captain Basara, a Centaurian intelligence officer stared at the battle recordings. This formation, he said quietly. These tactics, I've seen them before. Yes, Basara replied with a small smile. In Earth's history books. The Battle of Trafalgar, fought on our oceans nearly 1,000 years ago. Admiral Nelson defeated a larger fleet by breaking traditional naval formations. The Centaurian looked at her with new understanding. You haven't just brought new weapons to this war. No, Basara agreed. We've brought every lesson humanity ever learned about warfare. And we're just getting started. Throughout Confederate space, the news spread quickly. Humans didn't fight like anyone else in the galaxy. And they fought to win. Supreme Commander Vox there slammed his fist on the table, making the holographic battle maps jump. The Vraxian leader was not used to defeat. His scaled skin had turned a dark purple with rage. These humans must be destroyed, he growled to his war council. Now, before they spread their tactics to the rest of the Confederacy. For 3 centuries, the Vraxian Empire had fought the Galactic Confederacy to a standstill. Neither side could gain a clear advantage. But now, these humans had changed everything by destroying the 7th Fleet, one of the Empire's best fighting forces. Prepare the Grand Armada, Vox there ordered. Every available ship. We will crush Earth and make an example of these upstart primates. In Confederate space, analysts watched with growing fear as the largest Vraxian fleet ever assembled began to move toward Earth. Thousands of warships, including 5 super dreadnoughts, gathered for the attack. The humans fought well at New Centauri, said a Confederate general, but they cannot survive this. No one could. Admiral Chen received the reports with a calm face. When her advisors suggested retreating from Earth to save their fleet, she shook her head. Earth has been preparing for this day for decades, she said simply. Vox there is doing exactly what we expected. The massive Vraxian armada entered the Sol system 3 weeks later. They encountered no resistance at the outer planets. No human ships came to meet them. Vox there, suspicious of the lack of defenders, ordered his fleet to proceed carefully toward Earth. As they passed the orbit of Mars, strange things began to happen. Long dormant structures on Mars and its moons suddenly activated. What had appeared to be ordinary craters and mountains opened to reveal massive weapon emplacements. What is this? Demanded Vox there, as alarms sounded throughout the fleet. Before anyone could answer, thousands of small objects appeared on their sensors, surrounding the Vraxian ships. Human stealth mines, deployed years ago, waited for this moment. They detonated in waves, creating holes in the Vraxian formation. From hidden bases throughout the solar system, human ships emerged, not in a single large fleet, but in hundreds of small, fast-moving groups. They struck at the confused Vraxian ships, then disappeared again. Fight back, screamed Vox there. Form defensive positions. But there was more to come. The moons of Jupiter lit up as enormous railgun emplacements fired, sending projectiles at near light speed into the largest Vraxian vessels. No shields could stop weapons moving at such speeds. In the midst of the chaos, Admiral Chen revealed humanity's greatest secret, the dwarf planet Ceres, which the Vraxians had dismissed as unimportant, began to break apart. From inside emerged a massive dreadnought, the HSS Ragnarok, a ship larger than any in the Vraxian or Confederate fleets. All this time, Chen said from the Ragnarok's bridge, while your observers thought we were fighting over land and resources on our planet, we were building this inside Ceres. The Ragnarok's main weapon powered up, a cannon using the power of an artificial black hole. The energy beam cut through Vox there's flagship like it was paper. For the first time in centuries, a Vraxian supreme commander died in battle. The remaining Vraxian ships, leaderless and damaged, began to retreat. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had not just defeated another Vraxian fleet. They had driven the Empire back. The balance of power had shifted, and nothing would be the same again. 6 months had passed since humanity entered the war. The galaxy had changed. Dozens of star systems once held by the Vraxian Empire were now free. The humans and their ships had broken through defenses that had stood for centuries. But as Earth gained more victories, tension grew between Admiral Chen and the Confederate Council. The ancient alien species who had always controlled galactic politics did not like how quickly humans were gaining power and influence. In the great meeting hall of the Confederate capital, Admiral Chen stood before the council. Large maps showed Vraxian territory. "The time has come to strike directly at the Vraxian homeworlds," Chen said, pointing to the heart of enemy space. "We can end this war now, not in another 100 years." The council leader shook his head. "Too risky. For 3 centuries, we have followed a defensive strategy. We contain the Vraxians. We do not provoke them with direct attacks on their core worlds." Chen's face showed her frustration. "With respect, that strategy is why this war has lasted 3 centuries. The Vraxians are weakened now. We must strike while we have the advantage." "No," said the council leader firmly. "We will not approve such an offensive. The Confederacy speaks with one voice on this matter." Admiral Chen looked around the room. Many of the younger species representatives nodded in agreement with her, not with the council. She made her decision. "Then humanity will proceed alone," she said. "Earth did not join this war to fight forever. We joined to win it." The room erupted in shouting. Some called her a traitor. Others supported her. The Confederate alliance was breaking apart before their eyes. That evening, Alara Vex found Admiral Chen on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "What you're doing will split the Confederacy in 2, Alara said. "Many of the younger species are already saying they will follow Earth, not the Council." Chen nodded. "The Confederacy was already broken, Alara. You've been fighting the same war the same way for centuries, with neither side willing to risk enough to win decisively. And humanity does not have the patience for a 1,000-year war," Alara said, repeating Chen's earlier words. "No, we don't." Chen turned to face her. "Your oldest council members remember the beginning of this war. Some might even see its end if we continue their way. But human lives are shorter. We see the cost of endless conflict differently." "What is your real goal here, Admiral?" Alara asked quietly. "It's not just defeating the Vraxians, is it?" Chen smiled slightly. "Humanity doesn't just want to end this war, Alara. We want to reshape the galaxy. A new order where species are valued for their contributions, not their age. Where progress matters more than tradition." The next morning, thousands of Earth's ships broke away from Confederate fleets. They were joined by vessels from dozens of younger species who had grown tired of the cautious leadership of the elder races. This new coalition of the willing represented nearly a third of the fighting forces in the galaxy. As the coalition fleet prepared to depart for Vraxian space, Alara Vex stood alone in the control room, watching the ships leave. She had to decide: remain loyal to the Confederacy that had existed for millennia, or join the humans who promised a new future. The galaxy was splitting in 2, and she had to choose a side. Captain Samira Basara stood on the bridge of the HSS Thermopylae as it moved silently through Vraxian space. The coalition fleet had been striking deep into enemy territory for weeks, hitting military bases and shipyards before disappearing again. They never stayed long enough for the Vraxians to mount a proper defense. "Another successful attack," reported her second-in-command. "The shipyard is destroyed. No casualties on our side." Basara nodded, but her dark eyes remained serious. "The Vraxians are getting desperate. They will strike back soon, and not according to the usual rules." Her words proved true the next day. News reached the coalition fleet that the Vraxians had used planet killers, weapons that could destroy an entire world, against a small human colony. Millions of people had died in minutes. The message from Supreme Commander Vox there was simple: retreat or watch more of your worlds burn. When Admiral Chen received the news, she called an emergency meeting with Captain Basara and her top officers. "We won't retreat," Chen said firmly. "Instead, we will escalate. The time has come for Operation Deep Strike." Basara's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "We don't know what we'll find." "We know enough," Chen replied. "For centuries, the Vraxian Empire has been controlled from one place, their throne world of Vox Prima. No outsider has ever seen it. But now, we will. 3 days later, the HSS Thermopylae led a small force of 5 ships toward the heart of Vraxian space. Using their advanced stealth technology, they slipped past the heavy defenses surrounding Vox Prima. "It's beautiful," whispered Alara Vex, who had joined the mission at the last moment. The Vraxian homeworld was covered in gleaming cities and lush forests. "Beauty often hides the worst secrets," Basara replied as their dropship headed for the surface. A team of 20, 15 humans, and 5 aliens, including Alara, landed near the Imperial Palace. Using stealth suits, they moved past guards and security systems, heading deep beneath the massive building. "According to our intelligence, what we're looking for is called the Source," Basara explained as they descended. "It's the Vraxians' most guarded secret." Several levels down, they found strange biological pods connected by glowing tubes. Inside each pod floated what looked like a Vraxian brain, but larger and more complex. "A hive mind," Alara gasped. "The Vraxian Empire is controlled by a single consciousness spread across multiple bodies." Basara nodded grimly as her team placed quantum-entangled explosive devices throughout the chamber. "And now we know why this war has lasted so long. The Source feeds on it." She pointed to data readings on her scanner. "The Source absorbs psychic energy from suffering and death. The war isn't a means to an end for them, it's the end itself." As they prepared to leave, the doors to the chamber opened. Supreme Commander Vox there stood there with a squad of elite guards. "You understand nothing of what you found," he snarled. "The Source has guided our species for millennia." "And the Confederate leadership?" Basara asked. "Do they know about this?" Vox there laughed, a harsh sound. "Of course they do. They've known for generations. Why do you think they never pushed to end the war? The balance serves them too. Better a controlled conflict than the chaos that would follow if either side truly won." Basara looked at the detonator in her hand. Destroying the Source would collapse the entire Vraxian Empire. Billions would be affected as the system fell apart. But continuing to feed this parasitic entity with endless war was unthinkable. "What will you do, human?" Vox there asked. "Now that you know the truth." Captain Basara had made her choice. Despite knowing it might create chaos throughout the galaxy, she had destroyed the Source. The explosion deep beneath the Vraxian Palace sent shockwaves across thousands of worlds. The effect was immediate and stunning. Vraxian ships across the galaxy suddenly lost coordination. Some surrendered immediately. Others fought even harder, like wounded animals striking out in pain. Without the central mind guiding them, the once unstoppable Vraxian Empire fell into confusion. 2 weeks later, leaders from every spacefaring species gathered on a neutral space station. The war that had lasted 3 centuries was effectively over, but now an even bigger challenge faced the galaxy. What would come next? The Confederate Council wanted to return to the old system. The elder races would remain in control, and the Vraxian territories would be divided among existing powers. Admiral Chen had a different idea. She stood before the gathered representatives and activated a holographic display. "I present to you the Soul Accords," she announced. "A new compact for all species, not based on age or tradition, but on contribution and cooperation." The proposal was radical. Power would be shared more equally. No single group would control the galaxy's future. Resources would be distributed fairly, and all species would have a voice. The elder races of the Confederacy objected strongly. "This upends thousands of years of stability," argued the council leader. "Humans have been part of galactic affairs for less than a year, and you presume to remake our entire civilization." The debate grew heated. It seemed the galaxy might move from one war directly into another. Then Alara Vex stepped forward. She had made her choice too. "I have evidence you all need to see," she said. From her personal device, she projected classified Confederate archives. The files showed centuries of deliberate decisions by the Council to prolong the war, to maintain the balance of power. The council knew about the source, Alara explained. They knew the Vraxians were feeding on the war's suffering, but they did nothing because the status quo served their interests. Shock and anger spread through the gathering. Many representatives who had been loyal to the Confederacy now looked at their leaders with new eyes. In the chaos that followed, humanity showed its final and perhaps most powerful weapon, the ability to build consensus. While others argued, Earth's diplomats moved quietly among the representatives, offering compromises, forming alliances, finding common ground. "This is what we do best," Admiral Chen told Alara as they watched the process unfold. "On Earth, we had thousands of nations, languages, and beliefs. We learned to work together despite our differences. Now we bring that skill to the stars." 1 month later, the Sol Accords were signed. The Galactic Federation was born, with Admiral Chen as its first chancellor and Alara Vex as ambassador to all worlds. At the celebration that followed, an old Vraxian approached Chen. Without the source controlling his mind, he seemed smaller and more thoughtful. "You did in 1 year what neither of our civilizations could do in centuries," he said. "The galaxy shuddered when humanity entered our war, but we did not understand why until now." "And why is that?" Chen asked. "Because you never saw it as our war," the Vraxian replied. "From the moment you arrived, it was yours to end." Later, Chen stood with Alara, looking at the stars visible from the station's observation deck. "Humans have been looking up at those lights since before we had words for them," Chen said softly. "We always knew we weren't meant to just watch forever." Alara smiled. "And now the galaxy will never be the same." "No," agreed Chen. "It will be better."